Hello there, I'm Kellie Frazier, founder of Connecting and creator of Day of Love. Thank you so much for joining us. Tonight we have a very special guest. I am really excited about this because we actually have a live studio audience. I'm just going to kind of peruse the crowd.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that way you know that you are not talking to just me. And Kellie, I first want to thank you very much for joining us here tonight. Kellie is actually going to talk with us about creating a documentary and traveling in business. Kellie is an award-winning speaker and a best-selling author, and it is very easy to really end up traveling around the country and sometimes around the world. And Kellie has had some experiences that she's going to share with us tonight because some of the folks here had questions about, what is it like to create a documentary? What is it like to travel? Where would you go if you had the opportunity to travel in business? So I want to welcome you.
Pardon? Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I'm just so excited to be a part of your event and what you're doing. Are you are you having a problem, Cal?
Uh-oh.
Are we having internet problems now?
You're not only,
Hello?
yeah, I think so, yes. Can you
You want
hear
me to get
me?
out and come back in? Okay, let me get out.
Kellie, I'm gonna ask you to do one more thing. Can you maybe switch to a different location?
Yep, no problem.
It's funny, sometimes just going to a different room makes all the world of difference. Opportunity to change rooms, and we'll see. Hopefully that'll help it.
Where is she right now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Great question. Kellie is actually in Canada. That's where she lives and works from. And we're gonna hear a little bit about that in just a minute.
Okay,
Kellie.
is that better? Yep.
All right. Nice,
Is that better?
pretty pink background. Love it. It is better actually. You're not going in and out now, so that's good. All right, so Kellie, could you start with just, help the audience to know who you are, where you came from, and what you're doing today?
And what I'm doing today. Okay. Well, I am, a burn survivor. I'm a best-selling author and motivational speaker. And, basically I travel, all over the world teaching my story of, how I got burnt and how, people can love themselves even with an imperfect body. That's my biggest message. I just have so much passion for that because it drives me nuts that women and
Hey,
men
Kel,
too.
man, this is tough. Kellie, excuse me. I'm sorry. For some reason, it's muffled now.
Oh. Okay, how about
Okay,
this? Is this better?
that is a
Can you
little
hear me?
bit better. Thanks, Jill. I appreciate that. Yeah, go ahead and try it again.
Okay.
Good.
So, I've been, basically I'm a best-selling author, international speaker, and, basically a burn survivor and a mom, and, well, actually a single mom now. So, my passion is sharing my message of loving your beauty, even no matter whether you have a perfect body or an imperfect body. So, being a burn survivor, I, grew up with my burns because I got burnt when I was 2 years old, and I really didn't know myself any other way. I just knew that I had these scars and I knew that, they would never disappear. So I had to find a way to start loving myself and learn how to, embrace who I was so that I didn't always feel like I would have no confidence. And I had to stop letting other people's opinions affect me and not allow me to be who I wanted to be. So, as a result of 4 years ago, when I decided that I was finally going to step into the role of being a speaker, that was very challenging for me because I felt a speaker had to be Anthony Robbins. I thought I had to be someone that had to have that mega personality and that mega power and that mega everything. And it wasn't until I met some other women that said, no, Kellie, you can just be you. You can just be your authentic self. And that's what people want. They want to be able to relate to you because, you've gone from being this, this girl covered in scars to, being the woman of distinction and, becoming a 4-time best-selling author and traveling the world and, the most powerful and influential speaker. And last year I was also awarded with a medal from the Queen. So I got the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Medal last year, which was so cool. It was not anything I ever expected to achieve in my life. But so I just love that I get to go around the world and speak and share my story. And my books are being used to teach girls in Africa about self-esteem. So it's not something that I ever would have thought that my books do, but they do, and so that's pretty powerful, and it's pretty amazing to know that my books are around the world helping others. So I think that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, and I'm sure everybody in here would agree that that's pretty cool. Okay. When I'm privy to this story, but these guys are not. So could you tell them what happened when you were scheduled to speak somewhere, and at the same time you were awarded the Queen's Medal? What did you do?
Oh,
really powerful.
Well, here's the thing. A lady invited me to speak at her event, and it was like at the very opposite end of Canada, and I just thought she was joking. Like, so many people approach me and say, I'm going to do this event and I want you to be one of the speakers while you do it. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Well, this lady actually made it happen because 9 times out of 10, people will not make it happen. They just don't follow through. So she said, okay, and will you do it for free? And I was like, yeah, no problem. Not anticipating that she was actually going to follow through. Well, she actually did. She created the event, and it was for 100 abused women. And so she invited me to speak, and of course, because I said that I would, and I said that I would do it for free, I committed to that. So she booked me my flight and everything. Well, then what happened is I got nominated for the YWCA Woman of Distinction Award. But my flight was already booked. And so my friend said, well, you have to go. You have to go to the Woman of Distinction Award. Are you kidding me? Like, you could win this very prestigious award. Like, it's one of the most prestigious awards that you can win in my city. And I said, but I can't. I've got this event booked. And it's just so much more important to me to speak to those 100 abused women and share them my message so that they know that they can get through their life too. And to me, it wasn't really that important to win a medal or to win some kind of award. So I had to actually send my daughter to the event with my mom, and sure enough, I won. I wasn't expecting to win, but my mom and my daughter were there, and so they got to go up and accept this award for me. But it was pretty cool because the YWCA, who organized the award, they just said, can you make sure that your daughter comes up, because we just think it would be so amazing, that you can't be there because you're doing your passion, which is helping women, and that's what we're all about, is helping women. And here you are, you're doing that. So if you could have your daughter come up with your mom to accept your award, we would just be so amazed with that. And so I said, yeah, absolutely, I'm sure she will. And she was so scared because she had to get up in front of like 800 people. And she was only 14 years old. And so we've got pictures of her standing, holding this award. And then there was another time too when I won the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Medal. Same thing. I was up in another town about 4 hours away, and I couldn't be there. And people are going, "What do you mean you're not going to cancel that event? You have to be there to accept the medal." And I was like, "But I can't. These guys, they booked me like 6 months ago. Like, it's not like somebody else can go and tell Kellie Falardeau's story. Like, it just doesn't work that way. They booked me because they want me because of my story and the message that I can share with others." So same thing. My daughter had to go and accept the medal, and she was petrified because again she was only 14 at the time, and she was so scared because it was a real official. award, right? Like this is like the government is there, like the governor of Canada, like right next to the prime minister is there, and all these other officials are there, and there's like 300 people at this event, and she's got to walk up down the aisle, and she's like petrified, right? So it was so funny. She's texting me while I'm in the airport because I did get there in time to, for them to take a picture with me and put the medal on me. So yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that my daughter gets to accept all my awards for
That's
me.
awesome. Kelly, thank you for sharing that. One of the reasons. Yeah. Well, I don't know if she would agree to accept all of your awards for you, but yeah, she's still a teenager. I mean, that was just last year, so she's only 15 this year. So one of the reasons why I wanted you to share that story was because as a traveling speaker, you have to commit to the people that who have actually created and contracted your services. You have to be able to be willing to sacrifice something else for the good of that initial travel contract, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's disappointing that I can't always be there for my kids. Absolutely. In fact, I think you and I were talking about this last week that right now I'm really struggling with this whole, abandonment issue where I'm feeling like my ex-husband is now taking over the nurturing role and I'm now in the provider role because, I'm single now and I need to now make my own money so that I can, you know, provide for my kids when they're living with me and for when I'm, where I live in my house. And so I need to be able to make money and not have to rely on a man to support me. And so, you know, it's almost like I'm trying to feel like what does a man feel like when he's in that provider role? And I've had to like let go of that nurturer role and allow my ex-husband and his girlfriend to, look after the kids. And so that has been very challenging for me. And even just this past week, I was talking to some people, actually men, I was even talking to about that role. Like, how do you go and still stay, feel connected to your kids and feel like you're not abandoning them? So, how do you do that? Because I have these guilt feelings around not being that nurturer for my kids. But it's just too important to me to fulfill my passion and fulfill my dream of sharing my message with people. Like it breaks my heart when I went to Toronto and spoke to those 100 abused women, knowing that a lot of these women were just going to go right back into the situation they were in and probably be beaten up. But it was more important for me to be able to share my message with them of how, yeah, maybe you are, in that role, but you can get out of it. I mean, I have my own challenges with my marriage, and I was able to relate some of the issues that I had with my marriage. So I just believe that this is my calling and this is what I'm supposed to do. And I have to find other ways to be able to connect with my kids so that I still feel like I'm a part of their lives and that I'm not giving up everything to go be with them. I think often, what would it be like to go back to a job? Because sometimes being a speaker, I don't always make the kind of money that I want to make. And there's a slow time and there's busy, busy, busy times. And so I think, okay, what if I go back and get a job and all I have to do is think of myself in an office with four walls and all I have to do is think about what that was like for me when I did have a job, 3 years ago. And I would basically close the door and cry because my genius and my passion was being stifled by being in those four walls. And it wasn't allowing me to grow and it wasn't allowing me to impact people. And ultimately, that's what my life is about. And like even as early as like last week, my ex-husband was telling me, "Why don't you go get a job? Why don't you go and just work 9 to 5? And then you can be there for your kids." And I was like, oh, the pain of that, the pain of that thought that he's trying to make me feel guilty for not, being that mother that I was before. But the big picture is that my kids know that I've been able to get some major opportunities that I never would have had if I would have been in a job. For example, my book, No Risk, No Rewards, is in Africa. And there's a woman there that's using my book to teach self-esteem to all these young girls who are living in rags and mud huts. And there's so much value in that. Well, just last September, I was given another opportunity, and I was able to bring my daughter to Africa with me. So my 14-year-old daughter got to come to Africa with me, and she got to experience that whole mud hut and, these kids swarming us, and just like in the World Vision commercials where you're walking down the street of these little villages and there's mud huts everywhere, and these African people are swarming around you, and they just want to do high fives with you, and the runny noses and the big bellies, and we saw that. Well, had I just had a job like I did before, I never would never had that opportunity to bring her with me. So together, her and I were able to have that experience, and collectively, we were able to impact the world. So yeah, sometimes it really sucks. In fact, just this past week, I was in, 10 hours away, and I was learning a really essential part of my business, which is about sales and marketing, and how to sell as a speaker from the stage. Well, it was my birthday last week, and it sucked. It really sucked that I couldn't have my kids with me. But again, sometimes we have to make sacrifices, short-term sacrifices for a long-term goal. And it's so important to me to be able to be a success, and it's so important to me to be able to have the tools that I need in order to, succeed in my business. Because I know that if you were to tell me, okay, Kelly, you're gonna have to spend the next 40 years of your life in an office building, inputting stuff into a website, I would just crumble. I mean, it's an amazing feeling when you can go to Africa, or you can go to Taiwan, or even the States, and or even Northwest Territories. Like one month I was in Africa at the equator, and then the next month I was at the North Pole. And how incredible is that, to be able to go to speak to some of the Aboriginal kids and teach them about self-esteem? So what I do is, a lot of times I think about what is the ripple effect of what I'm doing. So it doesn't make more sense for me to work on, a website in an office, or does it make more sense for me to take my book and go to Africa and teach these young girls that they can have hope, and that they can have a great life, and then they can teach their friends, and then they can teach their kids, and then I might get invited to another place in Africa, and I did. And then they took me to all these churches. I think I went to about 5 churches. I don't know what religion I am anymore, because all these churches and all these different religions. But anyways, no, it was just all fun. But again, being able to speak in front of 1,000 people and share my message of, yeah, I got burnt, and yeah, my body is different, and I'm scarred up, but it doesn't mean I don't deserve to have a great life just like anybody else. And so that means way more to me than, not being able to be here for my birthday. So I will have lots of birthdays, and I will be able to celebrate my birthday tomorrow or the next day or something. So it's all about, you got to know what your passion is, and you got to do whatever it takes to get it, because that's where you're just going to grow so much. Hello?
So, Kelly, sorry, can you hear me? We are definitely struggling with internet connections here, which is unfortunate. Okay, so it looks like there's a bit of a delay again, but I think it's on our end because we still keep getting the message about internet connectivity. So just hang with us, okay? I appreciate you sharing the information. I appreciate you sharing the information that you did regarding the travel, because no matter what you do, you have to remember your why. I don't care if it's in business or in a marriage or whatever it is. You have to remember why you made the commitment to begin with. What you're expressing here is, whether it's travel in business or travel together in marriage or whatever, it's going to take sacrifice, as well as being able to be successful and creating the joyful moments that you have during that. So I love that you really touched on some of those things that you might not think about when you do step into a business where you do have to travel. So let's just shift gears, if that's okay with you, and let's talk a little bit about how you ended up producing a documentary. Can you kind of let us in a little bit of that and just kind of segue into it?
Okay. And you want me to tell them what kind of documentary it was too? Because
Yes, as I'm looking around the group, I'm thinking they can handle it.
I just found it on LinkedIn.
Jill, Jill's back there. She said, "Did you hear?" She goes, "I think I just found it on LinkedIn." Yeah, go ahead and share it because, I mean, really, it's a documentary. It doesn't matter. I've seen the documentary. It is amazing, guys. It is truly amazing. It's not something that I ever would have thought of doing. And Kelly, tell us a little bit. How did you end up doing it?
Okay. Well, I'm just going to come right out and say what it is because it will be very hard for me to talk about it and not tell you what the documentary is about. So basically, it's called Sexability. And it's a documentary about, people with different disabilities and their sexuality. And bottom line was, I was at a time in my life when I wanted to know if men in wheelchairs could have sex. Simple as that. I had this thought, and I wonder, can men in wheelchairs have sex? And so what happened was I ended up meeting a man at a business event, and he was producing television shows. And so I said to him, and he told me he was looking for new projects. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to come up with something, and let's get together next week. And he said, okay. So I set up a time to meet with him, and I said, have you ever wondered if men in wheelchairs could have sex? And he's like, oh, yeah, and can they? And I said, well, I don't know if they can, and that's the reason I want to do this documentary. I want to find out, can men in wheelchairs have sex? Well, he's like, yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, let me go talk to my partner, and we'll see if we want to, be a part of that. So to make a long story short, they said yes, they wanted to. But it was going to cost me $20,000 to produce this documentary. So I was thinking, how am I going to produce, or how am I going to raise $20,000? I had no money, right? I had just had a set of twin boys, and there was no way I was going to come up with $20,000, like this. So what happened is when I asked the universe, how can I come up with $20,000? All of a sudden, everything started to happen. We met a man who was the doctor in our local university, and he teaches sexual health to the occupational therapy students. So when I came to his event, because he planned a sexual health conference, I went up to him and I said, by the way, I'd love to produce a documentary about, men in wheelchairs and whether they can have sex and whether people with different disabilities can have sex. And he said, great, what do you need? We're on board. He says, we need content like that. He says, I need to have teaching tools so that when my students, my occupational therapy students are learning about sexual health, they are going to have content about that because there's nothing out there. There's no place that's teaching people about, sexuality and disabilities. So he said, in fact, he says, I'll put $5,000 into the pot. So I was like, yes, 5,000 down, 15 to go. And so I put together, an investor proposal, and I went to a bunch of people that I knew might be interested, and I went to some charities and foundations, and I said, hey, if you give me $5,000, I will give you, 5% of all the video sales. So you'll get 5% of all the video sales, and that's how you guys are making money back. And plus I'll give you a percentage of, any money that comes in if we get it aired on TV. And so they said yes. So I was able to come up with $15,000. I was short the last five. And so I went back to the producer and I said, look, I can't raise that last $5,000. I've done everything. What can we do? And he goes, okay, well, how about we'll take a higher percentage. So instead of it being 50-50, we'll take 60% of a project. You get 40%. And I said, okay, sounds good. So that worked for me because then I didn't have to come up with that last $5,000. So Yeah, so basically what happened is because we had the doctor on board, he was able to find different people that were, were willing to commit to being on TV and talk about, how they have sex in wheelchairs. And so it was pretty cool. It was a whole amazing process because, you know, it's so amazing to have a little idea and then actually see it get completed. And we actually got it on TV about 4 years later. So it's been shown all across Canada 8 different times. And the really cool part about it is they keep track of all the ratings, and we actually scored higher than the Disney Channel. So I thought that was pretty cool that, our my little idea, made it on TV, scored higher than the Disney Channel, and now that documentary is being used to teach occupational therapy students, physical therapy students, and nurses all about, men in wheelchairs. Well, not just men in wheelchairs, but all different disabilities, and teaches them about how to have sex, even with a disability. So, yeah.
Kelly, Kelly, thank you for sharing that. I just want you to know that I've actually been sharing it with a lot of disabled people, clients, and every single person that has seen it has just been floored because they had no clue that other people felt the way they did. And I think that that's one of the most important things about any documentary, that you can create a documentary that actually can relate to what somebody else is experiencing and going through. And it's a powerful thing when you can do that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And that's what's so cool about it is that sometimes our little idea, we don't know where that idea is going to take us, and we don't know the ripple effect. So I think it's so incredible that, people I share the documentary with are able to then share it with others, that is going to impact others, and it's going to help them. Like, we've even had people who, just become a paraplegic, but they don't know. Like, they don't know what they can do. And one of the things that our documentary does is it shows a man that's he's a quadriplegic, so he has no feeling from the neck down, and he shows how they use the sling that uh, that he uses for his when he goes from his bathtub to his bed. Well, they use that for sexual purposes. So it was so cool because if there's another quadriplegic out there who might not have ever thought of being able to use their prone sling, as a sexual aid so that they can have better sex. But the bottom line is that the ultimate message of this movie documentary is that people, just because you have a different disability, it doesn't mean that you're going to lose that desire or the ability to have sex. And basically what it means is that if there's a will, there's a way. So in fact, what we found out with the people that we interviewed is that in a lot of cases, the people who had disabilities actually had better sex lives than the people without disabilities. And I found that quite fascinating. And to me, the obvious reason is just because people with different disabilities have to communicate more. So they don't just get to take sex for granted. They have to change their lives, and they have to find a new way of doing it, and they have to communicate with their partner how their body has changed. And so I just think that that's just so beautiful that this little idea had of being used to inspire others to have great sex and learn more about it. So yeah, I'm proud of it. It's cool. Another
uh,
cool project.
no, I think it's amazing. It really is. And Kelly, what would you say that movie is rated? Just out of curiosity, if you had to put a rating to it.
Oh, it's definitely X-rated. There definitely is. Yeah, there's some sex in it. So if you don't like watching sex, it's not for you. So
Just wanted to put that out there, just in case
just
someone.
put that out there because I know some people are uncomfortable with that, and so
Well,
but it's very tastefully done. So
exactly, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, this is not. I mean, she says it's X-rated, and really, it's really not. If you're looking at it from like a medical standpoint, you can learn so much from something like that. Anyways, Kelly, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to turn it over to the group and see if people have any questions for you regarding travel in your business and as well as creating a documentary. Does anybody have any questions? Hey, John, I didn't see you back there. They're thinking. Well, in the meantime, you guys just really, if you have a question, just kind of shoot it out there. Dean, go ahead.
Yeah. So you mentioned you met with the man, the guy that was the producer. How did you? I'm really interested in documentaries and hopefully one day actually making one. So how would you? How exactly did you meet that person, and how would you make kind of like make the proposal to those kinds of people to get that process kind of started, or where would you
How would
would
you start?
yeah.
Okay. Well, the big thing is to, figure out what it is that you want to do and get that down on paper. And the then what I would also do is maybe suggest you to do some research about that topic and talk to people who are in that field, like in that area, whatever your documentary is. Like I found out from the doctor at the university that there's a huge demand for it because there is nothing else out there to do that with. So there's no teaching tools. And he's like he actually helped me sell the documentary because all these people want it, because like the Cerebral Palsy Association, they want that documentary because they want to be able to use that as a teaching tool for people who get cerebral palsy, right? So you got to really do some research and figure out what is it that you want to do. What is the demand for it? So is there really a demand for people wanting to know about it? And then the next thing is what's in it for them? I had to really prove that there was a demand for it. I had to prove that with the producer. I had to prove it with the university. I had to prove it with the television station because that was the big thing too. Is trying to get it on TV it's incredible. It's a very hard process, and especially with our documentary because not everybody wants to show sex on their right on their TV station. So we had to really research. It took us probably a good year of research just to figure out which broadcaster would want to take on our documentary because ours is so gray line. Like it's too blue for prime stations. They won't take that risk, because they're more into families. And then for the X-rated broadcasters, there's not enough sexual content in it. So it was very difficult for us to find that broadcaster who was willing. I know, right? Like it's weird that, but there's a lot of the X-rated broadcasters. They just want something that's totally off the wall, right? Like they want the sexual content. And our first version of the show, we actually had more sex in it, and we found out that that's not what the broadcasters wanted, and we actually had to go back and create a new one and take out some of the sex and put more of a teaching component in it. So that really helped us. The thing with documentaries, you have to be open, you have to be willing to change, and you have to be willing that this is not going to be a 1 month project. This could be a 5-year project. I would also really open up your mind to the benefits of the internet, and maybe doing something that could be put on the internet. Like maybe you don't want to get it on TV, but maybe there's a way you can create a documentary that could be put on YouTube, and then it could go viral. Now, here's what's really cool about some of my stuff is that I when I went down to Toronto to speak to the 100 abused women, one of the other things that I was doing was I had a meeting with Dove. Dove, the corporation that makes soap and shampoo, deodorant, all that stuff. So it was an amazing meeting that I had with them. But here's the thing about Dove, because I said to them, and this is kind of a little bit off topic, but it still will open your mind to this. When I talked to Dove about doing a commercial that could go on TV in Canada and the States, they said it's a great idea. The problem is that we have to go through 4 different levels of authority, and to get it on TV as a commercial, it's going to take 6 months to a year minimum. He said what we love is to do stuff on social media, because when we do like a little 3-minute commercial on, a little story type commercial on social media, we can get that out with only 2 levels of approval, and it can impact the whole world, not just Canada and the States. And the third thing is, and this is the most important part of it, is that we can measure the ROI. So the return on investment. They can measure that. They can see how many people are seeing that, little message. They can monitor the comments that people are making, whether it's negative or positive. They can see who's making those comments. So I believe that the next time I ever do any kind of documentary, I would do something that could be put on the internet and create a bigger impact in that way. So yeah, because it's so difficult to get your documentary on TV. But if you've got the right message, absolutely it can be done. I mean, I did it, and I did it with one of the most craziest topics out there that was pretty challenging to work with. So I would never tell you to give up on your dream and to not do it, but just know that there's other options besides just putting something on TV. And you might have an even bigger impact on the world. Because it's pretty cool on YouTube when you can see that, your videos had 2 million hits, right? And you can see all these comments, whether they're good or bad. And that's what Dove loves, is that they want to be able to be a part of something where they can actually measure the ROI. I mean, just putting something on TV, you don't always know who's seeing it and what the impact is. So I would just encourage you to keep your options open and explore all these different possibilities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? No?
I'm on,
well, Kellie?
the internet. Yeah.
Sorry, are you talking to your kids?
Oh, Alex is here.
Hey, Alex.
And I'm in her room, and she said, "Can't you go to the boys' room?" And I'm sorry, Alex. I would love to, but we're being recorded live right now. There's a big audience here watching me.
That's so funny. Hi, Alex. Okay, well, Kellie, we're going to let you go so that you can get out of Alex's bedroom. Thank you so much for spending time with us, helping us learn a little bit more about what it's like to travel, what it's like to create a documentary. I value everything that you do, and I'm really in support, of course, of whatever it is that you want to do in the future, and I'm always here for you. I also want to thank you on behalf of the Pacesetters group here tonight for just sharing your heart. I think one of the things that makes you such a great speaker, Kellie, is that you are so free and vulnerable, that you don't hold back, and I love that about you. Hopefully Dove will love that about you, too.
Thank you. Well, yeah, and and that's the whole thing. It's about being authentic and being real. And sometimes it can be challenging to do that. I mean, my life is so public, and and it's funny because I don't always know what people know about me, and then they'll say something. I'll say something on Facebook, and then next time I see them, they'll go, "Oh yeah, so you're dating that that engineer? How's that going?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, so you're on my Facebook, are you?" And like, "Oh yeah, and what about that bathroom incident that you had, And it's like, oh geez, but it's also.
Well, let me explain that one. Kellie is notorious for walking into men's bathrooms. I don't know why. It just happens.
Let me explain though, but it's not always my fault. It really isn't.
Very true.
They put a sign up and they put the woman's on there, and because it was a women's conference, and I ended up walking in and there was the urinals, and I was like, oh, seriously, again, and then another time what happened, and this, it was funny, Kellie's laughing because she knows this story. I was in a restaurant, and what happened was it was so busy and loud in there, and I couldn't hear my phone, and so I went running into the bathroom so I could hear this, the person I was talking to, and I go running in, and all of a sudden I'm talking away for a couple minutes, and I turn around and I look, and there's 4 urinals there, and I'm like, what the heck? How did I get in here? Where did those come from? And so I turned around and ran out and, went into the woman's bathroom, and I was just like, oh, I'm so appalled, just so embarrassed. But the latest bathroom issue was just yesterday when I walked into the woman's bathroom, and 2 men were in there, and I said, this is the woman's bathroom, right? And they go, oh yeah, it is. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness I'm right for a change. But But they were the hotel employees, and they were, yeah, they were just coming to clean the bathroom. And
Well,
anyway,
Kelly, you know, here in South Carolina, we're not allowed to drive and text at the same time. So maybe they need to make a law for you in Canada where you can't walk and text at the same time, because
I
that's
know.
where you end up going in there. All
Yeah,
right.
there's
Okay,
got to be a law about that for me.
yeah. Listen, I'm going to let you go.
But Cal, here's the problem. You wouldn't have any crazy stories to tell about me if I didn't, walk and text into the men's bathroom.
Very true. Your Facebook fans would be very bored. All right, Cal. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Really
You're very
appreciate it.
welcome. Thank
Give me
you. Have a great night, and thank you, everybody. And oh, by the way, come to my website, howtoloveyourself.org, and I have a free ebook there on 7 reasons why women don't love themselves and how to change it. So feel free to download it. It's free, and you'll get all kinds of great information.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Kelly.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.